I extend a very hearty welcome to all of you for today's program, a book discussion on a book, Ramayana, a comparative study of Ramakathas, which is a translated work done by C.T. Indra and Prema Jagannathan. You all know that Indira Gandhi National Centre under the program ignca Book Circle regularly organize book discussions and book launches. And in this very auspicious month, when the Pran Pratishtha for Lord Sri Ram has been done on 22nd January, it is the most appropriate to pay our homage, our tributes to Sri Ram by having a discussion on this book, which is basically originally published in Tamil and then now translated, which is a comparative study of about 48 Ramakathas in different languages, including some based on some folk traditions. We are going to discuss and launch today this book, Ramayana, a comparative study of Ramakathas. We all know that Ramayana, which is considered as one of the most ancient kavya, and also having so many variations, like as per my understanding, there are more than 331 versions of or variations of Ramayana available all over the world. We all know that with this kind of like variations, it entitled to be one of the most prominent texts or most respected texts in the world. Many times, in the lack of awareness or without knowing the facts, we don't give that kind of importance and weightage to our own culture. Like we have this UNESCO Memory of the World program, which started in 1992, and we all know that this program is to recognize the world documentary heritage. And this year we have also nominated Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas for UNESCO Memory of the World Register, just to give the due credit what this kind of like our epics deserves. Aim is to make a international joint nomination with other countries, because as I mentioned, there are so many variations with the South and Southeast Asian country, and by coming together. So at ignca, our aim is to particularly inform or make aware our young generation. Program like this, when we have more and more information. Like another very, very important document, Thirukural, like our aim is to have more information on that, and also to nominate. It's not just about a few selected Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gita only. We have so many like valuable documentary heritage, and our aim in this book discussion is have a current trends, as well as like on 5th February we are discussing on creative economy, culture as a creative economy or cultural economy. So we are giving due weightage to both our ancient texts as well as recent literature. So I'm sure today's discussion, we have such a galaxy of eminent scholars who have personally worked on the subject, will definitely give us something new, and we'll also talk about the book. So reader can have more information about this literature text from the South India. So others in other part of the country and globe should know more about it.
Hello everybody. Thank you very much for assembling at this prestigious Indira Gandhi National Centre for the Arts. It's a great moment for me personally. I must thank Renukul Verma of Itihasa Publishing for just organizing this special meeting to showcase our book, Ramayana, the book on Ramayana, and also asking me to speak on this occasion. How I wish I were there with all of you to savor this moment, because the country has been witnessing a great, what's called surge, leher, as some people use the term, great surge of bhakti, great emotion, or as Jaggi Vasudev puts it, you see. It's a great cultural moment. I call it a great civilizational moment, when there is a whole sense of purpose and piety just uniting a large number of people since the consecration of the Shri Ayodhya temple on 22nd January 2024 by our Prime Minister. There cannot be a better occasion for focusing or highlighting the importance of this book than the moment when the country is really basking in the glory of Rama's birth, the installation of Balarama in Ram Lalla, as you call it in North India. We call it Balarama in our place, in Ayodhya. This book was a translation of a Tamil book by late Professor A. Manavalan. That book was called Ramakathas, Ramayana. It was published in 2009, I think, and I must add that it was awarded the prestigious K.K. Birla Foundation's Saraswati Samman in the year 2011. For me, personally, it was a great privilege to be his colleague. He was a colleague of mine in heading the Tamil Linguistics Department, and I was in the English Department. And so it was a great confluence of languages and cultures. He was a multilingual scholar, and so he produced a book of a monumental span, I should say. The prestigious Saraswati Samman, which was awarded to this book, you see, it recognized his scholarship in the field of comparative literature, and also the meticulous way in which he presented our culture and literary tradition. I must say to the general public that this book is a scholarly work, and therefore it's a landmark publication. That is one reason why Itihasa took so much care to print it in such a manner that it will be highly readable, its weight will not daunt people, and its bulk will not daunt older people, so it is very light to hold, and it is an excellent cover, the Madhubani painting of Sita being abducted by Ravana. So I thank the entire team. Even though it's now more than 3 years since the book was published, it's all very alive in my mind. I must also remember the great contribution and help that Dr. Prema Jagannathan, my co-translator and collaborator, who just was working with me for nearly 3 years in and out of India over this book. As I said, this book is a landmark book because it's a great work in comparative literature and literary studies in Tamil. But none here should imagine that it is a comparative literary study of one Tamil book with another Tamil book. It is a comparative study of about 100 Ramayana texts. And of the 100 Ramayana texts, you see, he takes up about 48 of them, which he calls full Ramayana texts, which had the prestige of being called literary works, you see, dealing with the full life, the flow of Rama's personality and life, and not just in fitful appearance as in the case of other avatars of Mahavishnu. So, he, being a comparatist, he does not say that one book or one version is superior, other is not superior. On the other hand, he is interested in establishing the link, the living link between the various kinds of Ramayanas, which this country has been fortunate to produce. Professor Manavalan places this book in what we call in critical theoretical parlance the reception study. It is under the rubric of reception study. What is reception study, you may want to know? It is the question of studying formally, highly researched study of the convergences and divergences between the Indian Ramayanas and other language Ramayanas, non-Indian Ramayanas, stretching up to Japan, and Hindu Ramayanas and non-Hindu Ramayanas, heterodoxical Ramayanas and so on, and placing them all not in a hierarchy but in a kind of a map where you can see one place simultaneously along with another. It's not as though Tendulkar is greater than Dravid. Dravid and Tendulkar are placed in one single map. As an ardent admirer of cricket, please permit me to bring that comparison, because then you will understand that he is not saying that Valmiki is better or Kamban is better, Tulsi is not better, like that. You see, that's what I meant by that kind of reception study or comparative study, where all people are just looked at. There's no question of evaluation of their merit, because he pays attention to the context of the generative context of each work. Each work, a Malla Ramayana, Telugu Ramayana, a woman Ramayana especially says, I am going to write in Telugu, I am not going to write in Sanskrit because I don't know Sanskrit. Does not mean that Sanskrit is not a great language. On the other hand, my people will understand when I write it in this. In a Jain Ramayana, Pampa Ramayana, or what, in a Kannada Ramayana, they have other perspective. In a Assamese Ramayana, they have the perspective of Sringaram and so on. And this is what we call, see, the major work under derivative text. A comparative study examines this kind of symbiotic relationship between derivative text and main text. In critical theory, we use the term grand receipt and little receipt. So if you consider, for instance, Valmiki Ramayana, Kamba Ramayana as grand receipt. Receipt is recitation, narrative. Little receipt or smaller works, you see, which may not have the magnitude, but which do not lack in the spirit of fervor and adoration and so on. So, he just is interested in showing how these little receipts also sometimes contribute to the making of certain portions of the grand receipt or the major tradition. So, the derivative text, he says, also contribute to the making of what I call the master text of Ramayana. So, you have not just one Ramayana or 100 Ramayanas, but together all they make, you see, what's called the Ramayana, the master text, and sometimes even altering the main text. And so, I will take up a couple of examples which could be riveting. Scholars point out that there are northern recensions and there are southern recensions. That is the way in which they were copied and so on. You collate the copies, how what is prevalent in the eastern region may not be prevalent in the western region. What is prevalent in the Sri Lankan understanding may not be prevalent in the Dravidian country, and so on. And so, the case of Ahalya may be cited because Professor Manavalan has spent a lot of time on the representation of Ahalya and Indra and the curse of Ahalya in different kinds of texts. See, not only mainstream texts but also in ordinary texts, even painting. I went and saw in southern Tamil Nadu, a temple where this Ahalya episode, as it is depicted by Kamban, is just presented in a kind of in a hymn, Devaram, you see, Gnanasambandhar, and it uses stark words about Ahalya. So it has an ethical value. At the same time, if you look at it, you see, there is this northern recension. Ahalya is turned into a stone. I'm sorry, she is not turned into a stone. She is merely asked to lie hidden in the dust until Rama comes and redeems her. She is forbidden from eating anything. So Vayu Bhaksha, Nirakara, Tabyanti, Bhasmasayini. She has to eat air, okay? Vayu Bhaksha, Nirakara. She doesn't have to eat any ahara. She must forego any ahara, food. And then she must lie down, wait for her moment of redemption. Whereas in the southern recension, this is also Valmiki. So, Kamban has not written it. It is Valmiki, same southern recension. She is presented as somebody who has been cursed to turn into a stone. And therefore she waits for Rama to come and the dust of Rama's feet will revive her. And Kamban did not derive this from the northern tradition. So you wonder, he researches, Professor Manavalan researches into the sources going back, as you say in Hamlet, Ur Hamlet. How did Shakespeare arrive at this Hamlet? There were behind Shakespeare's Hamlet several kinds of Hamlets. So in literary studies we call it Ur study, U-R-Ur study. And Professor Manavalan proves that Kamban got all these things from this kind of changed version, you see, from the old classical Sangam poetry, Paribodal for instance. And you will be surprised to know that there were even paintings which describe this event, out of which a poem, Sangam poem was made. And therefore you have one kind of reality, the event that takes place, that must have taken place, and then it is made into a painting. From that painting you see one kind of poem, from that poem is a great epic, and from there it moves into a northern or southern version. So it is only in the southern version, manuscript, you see, you show that this kind of change happens. Nobody ever questions it except feminists. Feminists ask, you see, why should Rama's feet revive Ahalya? She can, and is she wrong in expressing her desire? These are fundamental questions, and Professor Manavalan just deals with it, you see, without actually passing any kind of puritanical judgment on either Ahalya or on Indra or Gautama and so on. And this is proliferated into a variety of stories or representations in dance and music and so on in Pudumai Bittan story, where at the end of that story you see Gautama, sage Gautama regrets that he behaved rather badly. They come together, but Gautama decides that he will go back to Himalayas and make penance. Okay, through penance, you see, he will attain that kind of knowledge, liberation from this kind of limited understanding. Now you can see how Ramayana has just actually percolated into the consciousness and various levels of this country. Now, my interest as a southerner, as a translator who is translating a southern text from Tamil, my interest is to show how there is a great transaction between southern culture and northern culture. Because Professor Manavalan pays attention to Irthachan Ramayanam, Kannada Ramayanam, Pampa Ramayanam, Tharava Ramayanam and so on, all the southern great works as well as minor works, Hindu works as well as non-Hindu works. And therefore this great transaction between northern culture and southern culture is one major contribution of Manavalan's book. And I am quite sure that those of you who would be interested in understanding this, particularly at a moment when a Prime Minister wants to establish a great committee between northern culture and southern culture, and who wants to promote an idea, the great idea of the grand narrative of India being one country, but with so many fascinating facets, I should show. I must mention that this book comes in the reception studies category. It studies the influence of one text on the other, the reception of certain ideas from one text by the other and so on. I must also say that at the moment in this country, there are two kinds of emotions. One I would call a very almost unthinking piety. People think that it is unthinking piety. On the other hand, there is irreverence. People think, what is there sacred about it? That it's a kind of sacerdotal adoration and so on. But the scholar's job is to just steer, not only clear, but steer through what I call the scylla of piety and the caribities of irreverence. And that is why Professor Manavalan is interested in tracing what I call the genealogy of episodes, events and themes and motives and so on, which tell you something about the rich tapestry of Ramayanas that this country and culture have produced. Thanks a lot.
It's a great honor for me to be a part of this book launch and then share some of my thoughts on the book. Before I come to the book, Ramayana and Mahabharata, these two great Itihasa Granths, have laid the foundation of this civilization, this culture, the cultural mindset have been set by these two granthas. So much so that in India, if someone gives a talk, for example, and doesn't quote something from Ramayana and Mahabharata, we say, क्या बोला? रामायण से कुछ नहीं बोला, महाभारत से कुछ नहीं बोला. अगर रामायण और महाभारत से कुछ बोल देते हैं तो जो बोलने वाले का मान भी बढ़ जाता है. तो ये इम्पैक्ट है रामायण और महाभारत का. एंड इफ वी लुक क्लोजली, द होल स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द महाभारत, लैंग्वेज ऑफ द महाभारत, कंटेंट ऑफ द महाभारत, and the language, style, diction of Ramayana, of Valmiki, we find two different components here, two different feel, two different ideologies. If Mahabharata can be considered as the mind of this civilization, the Mastishk of Bharat, the brain of India, Ramayana will be the heart of India. One reads Ramayana, it simply touches the heart. I remember for the first time when I came in contact with Ramayana, what attracted to me, and just one verse, it didn't allow me to move forward. There's so much beauty in the verses of Valmiki. When Valmiki goes to take his bath and then do the tarpana and his sandhya upasana, his disciple Bharadwaj goes with him and looking at the Tamasa Nadi, Tamasa river. So he says, and it's such a beautiful verse, it's almost, uplifts us to a contemplative, meditative state. It uplifts, it transforms, it helps us transcend all barriers and become contemplated on something deep. What he says, and look at the similes, look at the kind of, tulana, that upama that he gives. So he says, akardamam idam tirtham Bharadwaja Nishamaya. O Bharadwaja, Nishamaya, look, akardamam idam tirtham. It's so transparent and clear is this water of Tamasa. Then he says, Ramaniyam. It is so happy and beautiful to be seen. It's worth seeing. Then he says, Prasannambu. It is joyfully dancing. The ripples is so much joy that one can draw from it. Then he says, San Manushya Mano Yatha. What a beautiful simile. That it's like the transparent and clear mind of a San Manushya. And then going ahead, you will find the way Rama is described. It is that San Manushya Mana, Prasannambu, Ramaniya, Akardama, stainless, transparent, clear mind of a true person. Then he gives Rama. And what a beautiful language and what beautiful description and what a way to start Ramayana. And that's why, like every word of Ramayana, every verse of Ramayana is so important and so touching. It touches directly to the heart. Look at every character. I mean, there are people go on saying that, okay, Rama did this should not have been there, that should not have been there. It is all mental interpretation. So when we read Ramayana and Mahabharata, we have to keep in mind that first we need to go back to that age, understand the Yugadharma. What happens, why this book is important. Now you see, he has taken 48 different versions of Ramayana. Not versions of Ramayana, even Ramayana stories retold in different versions. Like there is a Purana, in Purana there is a portion of Ramayana, or in the Mahabharata there is Ramopakyana, or there are some other like Raghuvansha. It is based on Ramayana story. So he has taken all these things and then describes, and the regional versions of the Ramayana, like Jagamohan Ramayana, or Madhav Kandali's Ramayana in Assamese, or Kamban Ramayana in Tamil, or Telugu Ramayana, Malayalam Ramayana, Odia Ramayana, Bangla Ramayana, Krittivas Ramayana. So different versions of Ramayana he takes and then describes where lies the additional materials, where lies the beauty, where, say, for example, like Tulasidas has more matter, more beautiful matter. See what happens, why Yugadharma is important, unless and until we go back to understand what was the Yugadharma of the age of Ramayana. How was the society? What was the mindset of the people? And we have to evaluate the characters, events, and all that is said in Ramayana through the lens of that, not through the lens of our time, our Yugadharma. Then many things may not fall into right place. The same thing, all the regional version maker, this is what you will learn when you read this book. That suppose Tulasidas takes the story of Ramayana, the original content has to be there. But as a poet of a particular age, particular community or particular society, so he, though maximum he transcends all these barriers, yet something of the Yuga has to be retained, has to be linked, has to be related. Otherwise it won't be prasangik, it won't be relevant. So you will find something in Tulasidas Ramcharit Manas which depicts the society of that time. even at present, if someone is writing something, has to include something which can be linked with the Ramayana content. So that is why it is absolutely necessary that we need to understand the Yugadharma, and through that lens evaluate the events and characters and sayings of the poet. This is one important point. And coming back here, there are so many stories. What we discover, so beautiful. A tremendous amount of effort has gone into doing research into various books here. So what he has done, just imagine that he has taken, suppose he speaks Valmiki's Ramayana, and there are, say, Ramayana in Buddhist literature, Ramayana in Thai Ramayana, there is Indonesian Ramayana, there is Javanese Ramayana, there is a Latonian Ramayana. There are so many versions of Ramayana, and so many countries, especially in the Southeast Asian countries. You see the story of Ramayana, and then how Ramayana has impacted the whole mindset, the culture, the language, the way of living of the people. So he has taken all this and then shows the differences. For example, there are many aspects in Ramayana which are very, very popular, but may not exist in Valmiki's Ramayana. And most of the times we say, ye Ramayana mein hai. For example, you take Lakshmana Rekha, is something which you will not find in Valmiki's Ramayana. You will not find in many versions of Ramayana, but it is so popular. Without Lakshmana Rekha at present, no one can think of Ramayana. The moment you see Ramayana, Lakshmana Rekha has to be there. And it has become a part of our language, culture and mindset, so much so that Lakshmana Rekha becomes our Maryada. कि ठीक है भाई, ये लक्ष्मण रेखा है, इसको क्रॉस मत करना, ये बाउंड्री है, ये मर्यादा है. And such an important idea doesn't exist in the original Ramayana. Where does it exist? So going ahead, later many regional versions which have adopted this, which have spoken about it, but it first time occurs in the Ananda Ramayana. Similarly, the episode of Ahalya, you see, there is a positioning of that. Sometimes you have heard the Kevat Charit, so that ferryman. So sometimes you find, say for example, like in Tulsidas Ramcharit Manas, you will find Ahalya episode comes after Kevat Prasanga. But Tulsidas has drawn maximum of his material from the Ananda Ramayana and Adhyatma Ramayana. Okay. But in Adhyatma Ramayana you will find Ahalya Prasanga before the Kevat Prasanga. And it is most relevant because there he, and also like it's a very wonderfully curated book, well researched, yet there are certain things where we may agree, we may not agree. For example, like when the researcher here, he says that the Ahalya Prasanga, that Ahalya turning to stone doesn't exist in Adhyatma Ramayana. So this is again factually not very true, because in Adhyatma Ramayana there is a particular verse which says, where the Kevat is addressing to Rama, he says that there is no difference between Daru and Drishad. Drishad is the stone, and we all know that there is a magical power in the dust of your feet. Manushi Karana Churnam. He uses the word Manushi Karana Churnam in the Adhyatma Ramayana. So, or maybe there are versions in Adhyatma Ramayana which says that, which the author has not picked up. We don't know. So, there are many things which can also be, very constructively criticized, but there are many things which we need to learn from this book. At least, like I'm thankful to Professor Ramesh Chandra Gaurji for thinking of me to have to be here and address you all. So through that I got in touch with this book. Otherwise I would have missed it. I didn't know. And so many stories, unknown facts about various versions of Ramayana that one can discover from this book. But Ramayana, ultimately, every Indian, now we have experienced that civilizational moment for those few minutes on 22nd of this month. We all knew like what happened. Like that one mantra had so much of Shakti. That's why we call it as Ramayani Shakti. So much of power. This is the Bharata Shakti. Sometimes it is described as the Narayani Shakti by many spiritual leaders. So this Shakti is at the center of our civilization. So let's do the Upasana, and for doing the Upasana of that Shakti and manifesting that Shakti, awakening that amongst all the Indians especially. So we need such kind of works, and this work will definitely be remembered and will contribute a lot towards any aspect of research or study in Ramayana. Thank you all.
Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Distinguished scholars who are on the dais, among them Professor Shrinivasa Varakhedi, my friend, now Vice-Chancellor of Sanskrit University, and Professor Gaur. He is also my friend. He was working in JNU and he developed a library quite excellent manner. And now we are enjoying all those books. And also Professor Sampadananda Mishra, who I know from Pondicherry. And now he is in here only, Sonipat. And my student also is, I can see, Mayank Shekhar. He is working in IGNC, and my friends also are there from various. So now I am very happy to say something about this book. I am very happy because Ramayana. So first, when I was so busy, when Professor Gaur has invited me to speak on this book, I confused why he is inviting me to speak on Ramayana. Then he said that, sir, you have worked on Ramayana. Then I remembered, I myself did a national conference on Ramayana 2018 in JNU. And there was so much discussion. It was a wonderful conference. And then I am also engaged in the Ramayana, Cambodia Ramayana, because I was in Cambodia. And then when I saw this book I am seeing only here, because I could not get the book earlier. Only some parts of the book I got as a soft copy. But even through that soft copy, I understood that this is a wonderful work. Because what I understand, A. Manavalan has written this in Tamil language, and C.T. Indra and Prema Jagannathan have translated into English from Tamil. And this is altogether, you can understand that this is a contribution of Ramayana from Tamil Nadu. You can say that. A kind of Tamil, from Tamil scholars. And it's quite natural because Ramayana is famous. I can say more famous in southern parts of India. Rama temple, every street we have Rama temple. In every street there must be Rama temple. Is a kind of situation there. So Rama is very famous in every part of India, particularly southern part. So naturally there was a discussion and concentration on Ramayana, and A. Manavalan and Manavalan did a wonderful job, really. What he did is a great job. He collected so many Ramayana works and wrote in Tamil language. And in his book, in his foreword and in the introduction of his book, and also inside the book, very interesting things are there. Because what are those interesting things? I tell one by one. Normally we think that Valmiki was, because we say, Jate Jagati Valmikau Kavirityabhida Bhavat. Jate Jagati Valmikau Kavirityabhida Bhavat. Kaviti Tato Vyase Kavayastvai Dandini. So when Valmiki was born in the word Kavi also was born, because there was no poet before Valmiki. So there was no word also, because every word needs meaning, no? So when there was no Kavi, there was no word poet also. The word poet came only after Valmiki was born in the world, because he was the first poet. We needed the word Kavi. So Kavi, Jati Jagati Valmiki. So then Valmiki was the first poet, and he was living when Rama was living. That is what we know. So Valmiki was contemporary to Rama. This is also a kind of a famous perception, a concept also. We believe also like that. But what is written here, very scholarly, it's a kind of thorough research. What is mentioned in this in the book is actually Valmiki Ramayana was very famous in India. Valmiki Ramayana was existing, the Ramayana story was existing before Valmiki. It was famous in the form of folk tales, in the form of songs, in the form of regional languages, and like in oral tradition, it was living, Ramakatha. And from there, Valmiki has collected all those traditions, oral traditions, and oral whatever because Rama's story is very ancient, very, very, very old. And it was existing in various forms in India. So Valmiki he collected all those oral stories and all these things, and then he composed in a nice poem, it's a Ramayana. And also some other scholars believe that it was first composed by Buddhists. That is also written by the scholar in the foreword. He very clearly, he writes that Ramayana, Indra Parthasarathi writes, first Ramayana, because first Ramayana is Dasharatha Jataka, and it was because Dasharatha Jataka's time is BC 5th century. So therefore, Dasharatha Jataka has taken, but Dasharatha Jataka is a completely because Rama comes out and he goes to Himalayas there, not to the forest, he goes to Himalayas, and there is no war in that Ramayana, Buddhist Ramayana. वहाँ युद्ध नहीं है, because Buddhists are non-violent and they are peace-loving. And from there he has taken, Valmiki also has gathered even Buddhist version also, that's what is written here. So in this way, when you take Ramayana, there are so many interesting things. And later on, Ramayana developed to such an extent, I can say, as a Sanskrit, in the field of Sanskrit, we are working for a long time. There is no such a single poem in Sanskrit literature which is like Ramayana. There are several poems, but no poem could become like a Ramayana. Like Ramayana, you see, Ramayana became such a famous. It's very wonderful. Sometimes we think why it became such a famous. So it crossed the boundaries and it entered into many countries and all regions in India and many countries also. It went to Southeast Asia and also other parts of the world. Only Rama story. We have Kalidasa's poems also. We have many great poems, but only Ramayana could have that privilege. And therefore, it went to Southeast Asia. Cambodians wrote Reemke. They say Reemke, their version. And in Thailand, they also wrote, they say Ramakian, they say. And also in Laos, also Prehlek, Preram, Prerim, they say Prehlek, Preram. Lake means Lakshmana. If you go there, you find lake like that, many names. You cannot, all Sanskrit names and all Sanskrit words, but you cannot understand what they are pronouncing. So this is the influence of Ramayana. So before Buddhist influence on Southeast Asia, Ramayana has influenced everywhere. And Ramayana, and in Southeast Asia, they had their own Ramayanas, but later part. बहुत बाद में हुआ है, but in the first 6th century to 14th century, they used to study only Valmiki Ramayana. And that is evident from the temples, the sculptures. If you see several temples, Baphoon temple and other temples, Angkor Wat also, the sculptures of Ramayana are not in Reemke. So they are from Valmiki Ramayana, because Reemke is different version. They have changed a little bit according to, because it happened to Ramayana. It is mentioned in this book also. Writer very clearly mentioned how these changes came, because according to the various situations, according to climatical situation, according to the regional influences. So indigenous qualities have entered into Ramayana, and they indigenized Ramayana. Everybody wanted to write according to their own region, according to their own language, according to their own customs, traditions. So Ramayana, you cannot say Ramayana is such a famous poem. That is why, and this book particularly, its Tamil name is Ramakathayum Ramayanangalum. That is the original name of this book. Ramakathayum Ramayanangalum. So it takes 3 kandas basically, Balakanda, Ayodhya Kanda and Aranya Kanda. And important events of these 3 kandas are thoroughly discussed. Comparative study, comparative literature. It is mentioned here, comparative study of Ramakathas. Comparative study of Ramakathas. It is very difficult work. And one of the writers mentioned that comparative study is a new a kind of field of literature. It started in modern times, but comparative literature, comparative study was there in ancient times also. So I don't agree with that, because comparative study was there in Sanskrit literature also, because when you see the commentaries and bhashyas, there was a comparative study already. Anye, apare, kechit, this is all comparative study only. Like that, Sanketitas Chaturbhedah Jatyadir Jatirevava. So some people say like that, some people say like this. This is a kind of comparative study was there in our ancient Shastras already. So in this way, but collecting all these things, how many Ramayanas they have collected, list also is given in the table. 48 Ramayanas, you see, Dasharatha Jatakam, Anamakam Jatakam also is there, one Buddhist Anamakam Jatakam. Then Valmiki Ramayana, Bharatam also is there, Dasharatha Kathanam is there, Raghuvamsha also, and Paumacharya, from Jains also they wrote Paumacharya, it is very famous. And Vasudeva Hindi also is there, that is also Jain version of, Jain versions too are there. And Narasimha Purana, and in this way it's very famous. Ramayana, and they have taken all these versions and compared. That great the writer Manavalan taking these all versions and comparing in the important events is very interesting. And comparative study is it is inspiring everybody. Not only important Indian languages, Ramayana texts from Sanskrit, not only these texts, also they have taken in the list, you can see. Later on, they have taken the text from Southeast Asia also. That also has been taken and compared. So, folk tales in Tamil, folk tales from Telugu also. In Telugu, we have Molla Ramayana. And Molla Ramayana is the Telugu version of Ramayana. But later on, a great poet named Vishwanatha Satyanarayana wrote Ramayana Kalpavruksha in Telugu. It became very famous. So, and Vishwanath Satyanarayana, who got Jnanapith award first time in the Telugu literature, he wrote this Ramayana Kalpavruksha. So, and then in Sanskrit tradition also what happened, there are so many versions. That is why Sanskrit people some years ago, India's foremost epic Ramayana, that is why they had many prevalent versions are there. That is why the Oriental Institute of Baroda, impelled by the efforts of many scholars who felt that a critical edition must be prepared for it, and took up this task was given by G.H. Bhatt at that time, and it was first edited and published in 1951, and it approached various libraries and in the countries. It collected many Ramayanas, and they got 2,500 versions of Ramayana they have collected for the Baroda version. But Ramayana, but they have selected only 86 scripts out of them. Based on the 86 scripts, they have made the critical edition of Badoda is very famous. And one scholar some days ago, Professor Vijayan came from Gujarat, he was telling from same place, very interesting things. Because Badoda version, in southern version, they did not accept many verses which are very popular. Like Lakshmana saying, Naham janami keyure, Naham janami kundale, Nupure tvabhijanami nityam padabhi vandanat. So this is a famous, this shows the Lakshmana's greatness. But they did not accept this because Lakshmana cannot say like this. And also it is impractical. लक्ष्मण ने बोलता है कि जब वो जो आभूषण मिलते हैं सीता के, वो लक्ष्मण बोलते हैं मैं ये कुछ ना हम जाना मैं केयूर को नहीं पहचान सकता हूँ, कुंडल को भी नहीं पहचान सकता हूँ, क्योंकि कभी मैं सीता माता का चेहरा देखा ही नहीं मैं. लेकिन वो पाँव में पहनने वाले नूपुर को मैं पहचान सकता हूँ, क्योंकि नित्यम पादा भी मैं हमेशा पाद वंदना करता रहता हूँ सीता देवी की, इसलिए वो तो मैं पहचान सकता हूँ, लक्ष्मण says. But that was not accepted by Badoda version because they say that it is not practical because Lakshmana इतने साल, उनके 14 साल चेहरा ही नहीं देखा है, कैसे हो सकता है. So that was also not accepted. And also first version, the verse that Valmikir Munipungam, the starting is tapasvadhyaya niratam, tapasvi vagvidamvaram naradam paripapracha Valmikir Munipungava. This is a famous version. But that was also critically examined by them because if all these adjectives are going to Narada only, that means Valmiki does not know anything. So they did not accept, and that version they kept like this. The scholar told on the day that they made it, the version, original version is like this. Tapasvadhyaya nirataha, tapasvi vagvidam varaha, naradam pariprapracha Valmikihi munipungavaha. So all these adjectives are going to Valmiki, not to Narada. Because Valmiki himself was a great poet, tapasvadhyaya nirataha. He was a great poet, not Narada. Who is tapasvadhyaya nirata, Narada or Valmiki? They say that Valmiki is tapasvadhyaya nirata. And he is tapasvi vagvidam varaha. You see very clearly, that is why he wrote a poem. He was a poet, vagvidam varaha. So if you keep all adjectives to Narada, which is very famous now in every Ramayana, in northern versions particularly, that is not appropriate. Because if Valmiki does not know anything, only Narada knows everything, why he asks about Rama? So then who is Valmiki? Valmiki was a great scholar. Vagvidam varaha, tapasvadhyaya nirataha, tapasvi. That is why he is asking about the Rama, about he asked the Narada about to know the great person. Who is the great person in this world? Kon vasmin sampratam loke gunavan kaschaviryavan dharmajnascha कृतज्ञश्च सत्यवादी दृढ़व्रतः. ऐसा कौन है संसार में? वहाँ से शुरू हो गया. So in this way, there are several things. I don't have much time, but I can only say that this book is so interesting. I was getting an idea when just I read very few, only few pages, but I think we can have complete a course of study on Ramayana. A kind of department also we can open on the only on Ramayana, because Ramayana is not just one poem. Ramayana is our culture. Ramayana is everything for Indians. Yavat sthasyanti girayah, yavat vindhya himalayau, yavat gangacha godacha tavat Ramayani katha lokeshu pracharishyati. So in this way Ramayana always, it was there and it is there and it will be there always. So I am very happy to today we are discussing about the Ramayana, and I wish that there should be many more occasions to discuss on Ramayana. This is in this short period of time we cannot discuss anything on Ramayana. Ramayana is such a great, like ocean. So therefore, but still, today is a very good day for us because we are talking and listening about the Ramayana.
Civilization new age of Bharatiya civilization. That is where Ramayana again starts. The story of Rama has begun, but it has no end. I would like to make 3 points here about this book and beyond this book. In the preface to the scheme of research of this book, it is said that the collection of stories named Ramayana has been in vague all over India long before historicized time, existing in various forms such as myths, Puranas, or in oral forms. And again he writes, even so, it is only in Valmiki's Ramayana that we find it taking for the first time the shape of a written epic. I belong to Sanskrit tradition, where in several Puranas it is mentioned that Valmiki Ramayana is not the first Ramayana. It is, of course, it is Adi Kavya. It is first Sanskrit poem in poetic form. Ramayana has come. But before that, we had an oral tradition of Ramayana which was mentioned in various Puranas like Shatakoti Pravistaram. It was a very long story of Ramayana was available. And I think when it is mentioned as Shatakoti Pravistaram, it is mentioned that it is one particular language. So that we think that Ramayana was available, the story of Ramayana was available, or the stories of Ramayana were available in different languages, in different places, and Valmiki, of course, brought them into a poetic form in Sanskrit. And again, Valmiki Ramayana was not at all written. It was a Gita Kavya. In the Ramayana itself, it is mentioned that first time it was heard by Rama. It was sung by the two young boys. Ramayana was sung. And Ramayana was never ever, written, and then very later form we find as any other works of Sanskrit were made available in written form. Ramayana was also made available. And of course, Ramayana is available in written form, but Ramayana is available even in oral tradition, even in India. Therefore, we should consider that Ramayana Kathaha, they are very important than written form of Ramayana. And we should not believe that only this one written form is the authentic one, because there are several stories. I would say, again, these stories will continue. We have a shloka, Yavat sthasyanti girayah saritascha mahitale tavat Ramayana kathaha lokeshu pracharantihi. See, this is very interesting reading. Ramayana katha, it is not one Ramayana katha, one story of Rama. It is Ramayana kathaha pracharanti, lokeshu pracharanti. That means they continue to exist in the world as long as the mountains and other things. But Ramayana Kathaha, you should note the Bahuvachana. That means Ramayana is not only one Ramayana. There are varieties of Ramayana stories are available because stories are told. In India, we don't believe in history. We believe in stories. We are storytellers, and we are happy with the stories. And if you ask me, of course, Ramayana was historic one, and we have historicity. We have many proofs to prove that Ramayana was a historic event. But yet, we are not satisfied with one history of Rama. That may be there, but we are much satisfied with the stories of Rama. So these tales are told and retold and again told in various languages, in various forms. Therefore, we should really look at the various aspects of Ramayana. In Ramayana itself, Valmiki says, this is not only Ramayana. This is Ramasya Charitam, this is also Sitaya's Charitam, this is also Polastyasya Vadha. Therefore, there's no one aspect of Ramayana to really look into. So there are so many aspects, and we should really look into those aspects to understand Ramacharita. And I would like to bring another important point here. In one of the Puranas, it is told that when did Rama take avatar? It is not in just past Treta Yuga. It is Treta Yuga of 21st cycle. That means today we are in 28th cycle of Yuga. That means 28th Kali Yuga. It is 20. If you consider 100 years of Brahma, Chaturmukha, this is 28th cycle is going on. Ashtavimshatitame Kali Yuge, we practice, Ashtavimshatitame Kali Yuge, in our Sankalpa we do it. So this is 28th Kali Yuga. When this Rama has, this Ramavatara has taken place in 24th Treta Yuga. This is also mentioned. That means how many cycles have gone? So we should not go and see for historicity of some places. There are, of course, there are, and we continue to keep them intact. But still, we should understand that the gap of the time between the event and the stories. And even in Sanskrit, many people ask me, Janani Janmahu Mishcha Swargadapi Gariyasi, where is it? Where this shloka comes from? Of course, many people believe that it is in Ramayana. It is not in Valmiki Ramayana. It is available in Hanuman Nataka. This is somewhere else. Therefore, these are the different versions. Naturally, when we retell the stories in the history, it has happened. About this book, when I saw 48 varieties of Ramayana and then a comparative study of Ramakatha has been undertaken by the author, I am reminded of one beautiful story by A.K. Ramanujan. He has written a very nice article on Ramayana, 300 stories of Ramayana. It's a very beautiful story. I'll end my talk with that story. It is a meta story about Ramayana stories. Okay. One day, Rama was walking, and then suddenly his ring fell down. His ring fell down, and it went to a small hole. So when it went to a small hole, as usual, Hanuman came there and he said, Hanuman, my ring fell down and please can you bring it? I am going somewhere. So he went away. And then Hanuman was looking into the hole. And looked into hole, it was not seen. Then he took a small form. He jumped into the hole. Okay. And Rama went, and he went inside of his palace, and then where Vasishtha came, and Vasishtha wanted to discuss something with him in isolation. Then he said, all others have to be sent out, and I want to discuss something with you in person. Then Rama orders Lakshmana, see, you wait outside and no, you don't allow anyone inside until I say yes. If anybody comes inside, chop his head. Then he said, fine. Then he waits outside, and Rama started discussing with Vasishtha inside. Meanwhile, Hanuman went into the hole. He goes down and he falls down in the Patala. So Patala Loka, there was somebody was sitting, and he was Patala king of Patala, and some of his fellows came and picked him up. Because Patala Loka, they used to eat, monkeys. They were interesting. So monkeys were their food. They thought that some monkey was available today. Some monkey is available today for food. They brought the monkey in a plate, and the plate was kept before the king. The king was very happy. The monkey is available for food today. So then monkey is in the plate. Then he saw this monkey is special monkey. The Hanuman started speaking to the king. Then he said, who are you? No, I am Hanuman. Oh, welcome, Hanuman. You please take the chair. Then he gives him the chair. Then he stands there and he asks, why are you here? No, my boss Rama said his ring has fallen down, and now I came here. This whole is coming to this Patala Loka. I am here in search of my king's ring. Oh, welcome, definitely. Then king said to his fellows, bring the big vessel where there are many rings. Then he brought the big vessel, and he says, these are the rings. You take the ring of your own, or whatever, your Rama. You take the ring of your Rama. Hanuman is unable to identify Rama's ring. He was looking at the vessel, and there are so many rings, and each one is one and the same. And he could not recognize which one is ring of his own Rama. By the time Vasishtha asked Rama, today your avatar kala is over. Please you have to complete your avatara. Then by the time Rama avatara is over. Then in Patala Loka, king says, your Rama is now gone. If you go back with ring, Rama is no more there. Rama avatara is over. And in all Rama avataras, such ring will come here. And there are so many rings here. And all of them belong to your Rama, but in different avataras. Then Hanuman leaves. The story tells that there are so many Ramas and there are so many Ramayanas. Thank you very much.